Welcome to Pest Talk, the buzz on bugs. I'm Mark Buzz, and I've always been fascinated by those creepy crawlies
Yeah.
that share our world,
Yeah.
especially the ones we find right in our homes,
Right.
like these tiny little roommates
Uh-huh.
we never really invited.
That's right. And I'm Anna Bugs, an entomologist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so basically I study insects,
Cool.
and I can tell you there's a whole lot more to these little guys than meets the eye.
Oh, I bet.
They might be small,
Yeah,
but they're definitely mighty.
absolutely. And speaking of mighty, for our very first deep dive here on Pest Talk,
Oh.
we're going to tackle a spider that's practically a household name.
Okay.
The common house spider.
Okay.
You know, the one that spins those messy webs in the corners of our basements and attics?
Yeah.
We're going to get up close and personal with this little guy. And trust me, you might be surprised by what you learn.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that common house spiders are actually pretty small.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're talking a leg span of maybe an inch or two max. Not the giant hairy monsters some folks imagine.
Right. And they're actually quite shy. You're much more likely to find them tucked away in quiet, undisturbed spots. Think basements,
Yeah.
attics,
Yeah.
closets, Those areas where you only venture every once in a while to dig out something you haven't seen in years.
Like they're intentionally trying to avoid us.
Yeah.
But speaking of those messy webs,
Yeah.
have you ever noticed how chaotic they are?
Oh, absolutely. I always think they look like someone just threw a handful of string at the wall. Not exactly the picture of elegance, right?
But you know what's fascinating?
What?
Those chaotic webs are incredibly effective
Oh, really?
at catching prey.
Interesting.
And those webs are out there working 24/7 to catch the insects that are already in your house.
Oh, cool.
We're talking flies, cockroaches,
Wow.
even other spiders.
Wait, they eat other spiders?
They do.
So they're like little cannibals.
Well, I wouldn't use the term cannibal, but they definitely see other spiders as fair game, especially if they're competing for resources.
Okay, so they're not the tidiest of roommates.
All right.
But they're definitely pulling their weight when it comes to pest control.
Yeah,
It's almost like having a built-in exterminator.
exactly.
Wow.
They might not be the most glamorous roommates,
Yeah.
but they're definitely helpful in their own quiet way.
Now, I have to ask the question that's probably on everyone's mind.
Okay.
Just how dangerous are these common house spiders? I mean, we see them all the time, and sometimes we get a little too close for comfort.
Well, let's set the record straight.
Okay.
Common house spiders are venomous,
Ooh.
but their venom is really mild, especially compared to some of their more notorious relatives.
Oh, okay.
Like the black widow or brown recluse.
So we don't need to be running for the hills every time we see one.
Not at all. In fact, a common house spider bite is often compared to a bee sting
Okay.
in terms of intensity.
Oh, wow.
You might experience some redness and swelling,
Gotcha.
but that's usually about it.
That's a relief. Yeah. But what about those other spiders? The ones with the truly scary reputations.
Yeah,
How can we tell them apart from our relatively harmless house spider?
that's a great question. And it's important to be able to distinguish between different types of spiders.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in an area where venomous spiders are common.
So let's have a quick spider showdown, shall we?
Okay.
Imagine you're at home
Okay.
and you spot a spider.
Yeah.
What are the key things to look for
Okay.
to determine if it's a common house spider or something you might need to be more cautious about?
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
You've got your common house spider,
Yeah.
brown or gray, with a compact body and those long spindly legs we talked about.
Yeah.
Now compare that to a black widow,
Yeah.
which is usually shiny black with the very distinctive red hourglass shape on its abdomen.
Okay.
You're definitely not going to mistake that one.
Okay. That's pretty easy to remember. Black and red hourglass shape.
Yeah.
Steer clear. But what about brown recluses? They seem a bit trickier to identify.
You're right. Brown recluses are more subtle.
Okay.
They're typically brown, as the name suggests,
Uh-huh.
and they have a violin-shaped marking on their back.
Mm.
The key thing to remember is that both black widows and brown recluses have much more potent venom
Yeah.
than the common house spider, so it's best to err on the side of caution
Right.
and avoid them altogether.
Got it. Hourglass or violin on the back. Time to call in the professionals.
Right.
But what about those other common spiders like wolf spiders or giant house spiders? How can we tell those apart from our little housemate?
Well, wolf spiders are pretty distinctive.
Okay.
They're hairy with strong legs,
Okay.
and they're often seen out in the open,
Yeah?
actively hunting for prey.
Interesting.
They don't build webs
Oh,
like common house spiders.
okay.
And giant house spiders, as the name suggests, are
Yeah.
significantly larger.
Huh.
We're talking leg spans of up to 4 inches.
Wow, 4 inches. That's a big spider.
Yeah.
I think I definitely noticed that one.
You would.
So if it's big and hairy and doesn't seem to be hiding,
Right.
it's probably not a common house spider.
Right.
Good to know.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, it's always best to err on the side of caution and
Mm.
consult a professional.
Good advice. Okay, so we've talked about how to identify common house spiders and how to tell them apart from some of their more dangerous relatives.
Right.
But let's dive a little deeper into the world of these fascinating creatures.
Okay.
What about their life cycle?
Okay.
How do these little guys grow up?
Well, it all starts with an egg sac, which the female spider creates to protect her eggs.
Oh.
And you won't believe this.
What?
She can lay hundreds of eggs at a time.
Hundreds. Wow. That's a lot of baby spiders.
It is.
I can only imagine what that must look like when they all hatch.
It's quite a sight. Once the eggs hatch,
Yeah.
these tiny spiderlings go through several molts.
Molts.
Yeah, that means they shed their exoskeletons as they grow larger. It's kind of like they're constantly outgrowing their clothes.
Then they're like little 8-legged teenagers going
Yes.
through a growth spurt.
Exactly, and it's through this molting process
Yeah.
that they eventually reach adulthood.
I've got to ask, how long does that whole process take?
Okay.
From tiny spiderling to web-spinning adult?
It can vary,
Yeah.
depending on environmental conditions,
Okay.
but generally it takes several months for a common house spider to reach maturity.
So from tiny spiderling to web-spinning adult in just a few months.
Right?
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
And once they reach adulthood, how long do they typically live?
They can live for up to a year,
Wow.
or even longer, depending on various factors.
That's quite a lifespan
Yeah,
for such a small creature.
it is.
And during that time, they're busy working behind the scenes,
Yeah.
keeping those insect populations in check.
Right.
It's really amazing how these tiny creatures
Yeah.
can have such a significant impact on their environment, isn't it?
It really is. And you know, one thing that always fascinates me
Yeah.
is their web building skills.
Ah,
I mean, we've all seen those messy webs,
right.
but have you ever stopped to think about how they actually construct them?
You're right. I kind of take those webs for granted.
Yeah.
Just something I try to avoid walking into.
Right.
But the construction process itself
Yeah.
is probably pretty amazing.
Oh, it is. It's a carefully orchestrated sequence of steps.
Cool.
And it all starts with the spider releasing a silk thread
Okay.
that catches onto a nearby
This
surface.
is like an anchor point.
Exactly. And then the spider uses its legs
Yeah.
to pull the thread taut,
Okay.
creating a bridge line.
I can almost picture it like a tiny tightrope walker.
That's a great analogy.
Wait.
And from there,
Yeah.
the spider creates a framework of radial threads,
Okay.
which extend outward from the center like
Yeah.
spokes on a wheel.
That's starting to sound more like the classic spider web shape we all know. But then what?
Yeah.
How do they get that messy, tangled look?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Instead of creating a neat spiral web like
Yeah.
some other spider species,
Right.
the common house spider adds a series of irregular sticky threads
Oh.
to the framework.
Uh-huh. So that's the secret behind their signature messy style.
Exactly.
But even though they might not be winning any beauty contests,
Right.
those webs are incredibly effective at trapping those unsuspecting insects.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a three-dimensional maze of doom
Yeah.
for those poor bugs.
He could say that.
Wow.
And it's all thanks to the spider's incredible instincts.
Yeah.
And that sticky silk. It's quite a feat of engineering when you think
Mhm.
about it.
You know, I've always just seen those webs as cobwebs, something to be swept away.
Yeah.
But now that I understand the whole process
Right.
and the spider's ingenuity,
Yeah.
I can't help but see them in a new light.
It's a real perspective shift, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that even the smallest creatures
Yeah.
can be incredibly skilled and resourceful.
Exactly. Now, speaking of resourceful,
Okay.
let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about the common house spider's diet.
Okay.
We know they primarily feed on flies, cockroaches, and other small insects.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the actual capturing and consuming process.
Okay.
It's a bit gruesome,
Okay.
but fascinating nonetheless.
Okay. I'm all ears. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of spider dining etiquette.
So imagine an unsuspecting fly buzzing around,
Mm.
completely oblivious to the intricate web lurking in the shadows.
Okay.
The moment that fly makes contact
Yeah.
with those sticky threads,
Right.
it's game over.
So those sticky threads are just the first line of defense.
Right.
What happens next?
The spider springs into action.
Right.
Yeah, it rushes over to the entangled insect
Wow.
and uses its venom to paralyze it.
So it's not just passively waiting for its meal to come to it.
Right.
It's an active hunter.
Absolutely. And once the prey is immobilized,
Yeah.
the spider wraps it in silk,
Uh-huh.
further securing it. It's like creating a little takeout container.
That's a perfect analogy.
Dang it.
But how does it actually eat the prey?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have teeth, right?
Right. They don't have teeth in the traditional sense.
Okay.
Instead, they use their fangs to inject digestive enzymes into the prey.
So they're basically liquefying their food before they even eat it?
Pretty much.
That's pretty wild.
It is. And then the
Yeah.
spider uses its sucking stomach
Got-
to draw out the liquefied nutrients.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nature has come up with some pretty incredible ways
Right.
for creatures to feed themselves.
It has.
And you know what? That process,
Yeah.
as gruesome as it might seem,
Right.
is actually quite efficient.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the spider is extracting all the nutrients it needs from its prey.
Exactly.
No waste.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
nature's way of ensuring survival. And it's a testament to the spider's evolutionary adaptations.
You know, I have to say, before we started this deep dive,
Yeah.
I was pretty quick to grab a shoe whenever I saw a spider in my house.
Right.
But now that I've learned so much about them,
Yeah.
I'm starting to see them in a whole new light.
I think a lot of people feel that way once they understand these creatures better.
Yeah.
It's all about knowledge and perspective, isn't it?
It really is. It really is all about knowledge and perspective. And you know what else I find fascinating?
What's that?
The role of spiders in mythology and folklore.
Oh, yeah.
They pop up in stories and legends all over the world, don't they?
They really do. And it's interesting how their portrayal varies across different cultures. In some, they're seen as symbols of creativity and wisdom.
Like in Greek mythology, right?
Yes.
There's the story of Arachne, the weaver, who challenged the goddess Athena to a weaving contest.
Exactly. And even though Arachne's tapestry was considered more beautiful, Athena was so enraged by the challenge that she transformed Arachne into a spider,
Oh my gosh.
condemned to weave for eternity.
Talk about a harsh punishment for being a talented weaver.
I know, right?
But I guess it shows the power and awe and maybe even the fear
Yeah.
that spiders have inspired throughout history.
Absolutely. But they're not always portrayed in a negative light.
Right.
In some cultures, they're associated with good luck or prosperity.
Like the money spider, right?
Yeah.
There's that superstition that if a money spider crawls on you,
Uh-huh.
it's a sign that good fortune is headed your way.
That's right. And in some Native American cultures, Spider-Woman is a powerful creator deity
Wow.
responsible for weaving the web of life.
It's incredible how these tiny creatures have captured our imaginations for centuries,
Yeah.
inspiring myths and legends that have been passed down through generations.
It really speaks to their unique place in the natural world
Yeah.
and how they've managed to both fascinate and frighten us
Right.
throughout human history.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today in our deep dive
We have.
into the world of the common house spider. We've explored their biology, their behavior, even their cultural significance.
It's fascinating.
Who knew there was so much to learn about these often misunderstood creatures?
Right. And hopefully we've busted some myths along the way
Yeah,
and helped you see them in a new light.
definitely.
Remember, they're more helpful than harmful,
Right.
and they play a vital role in keeping those pesky insect populations under control.
So the next time you spot one of these little guys in your home,
Yeah.
maybe instead of reaching for a shoe,
Right.
you'll take a moment to observe it and appreciate its role in the intricate web of life.
I love that.
After all, they're more like tiny roommates than monstrous invaders, right?
Absolutely. They're just trying to make a living just like the rest of us. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll even bring you a little bit of good luck along the way.
I'll take all the luck I can get. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this first episode of Pest Talk, the buzz on bugs. We had a blast exploring the world of spiders with you today.
We did.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the fascinating world of creepy crawlies. Until then, keep those questions buzzing.
Yeah.
And remember, every bug has a story to tell.
See you next time.
See ya.